it's time. We're going to give it one more minute.
Oh, I know Fisher's up there, so. He's his phone, right?
This meeting should go pretty fast. No? It's good. Because then people trust them.
Maybe people weren't thinking there was one today. You guys went to,
In my opinion.
there you go.
All right, it's 6 o'clock. I'd like to call the meeting to order. This is the town council meeting. October 17th, 2018. If we all rise to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks, everybody who's here. My wife thinks I'll look better without the hat, I guess. She's telling me to take it off. So. Oh, I have been known to not take it off, so. My paperwork's not here. Mayor's Town update. I'd like to go over a few things. Let me start off by talking about tomorrow. That's, do you want to do a roll call first? Roll call.
Mike McLaughlin, aye.
Debbie Cobb?
Marty Lisenby.
Paul Edwardson?
Jenny Bass.
And so I wanted to just talk about tomorrow. It's my anniversary tomorrow. And I just want to share that with everybody that Tish and I got married 10 years ago today. And she's the most amazing person in my life and been the most significant person. It's just, I can't even imagine my life without her.
Okay, now it's your turn.
So, anyway,
So what did you do yesterday, Marty? That's a big suck up. What did you do? You did something wrong.
you know what? No, actually, what happens is I tell you what, honestly, in probably 10 years of being married to her, she's tired of hearing it, but I just tell her how much I appreciate her almost every day.
Yeah, awesome.
And that's a fact. I do. There might be a day or two that I missed in there, but I'll tell you that I hit more than I don't.
Well, we appreciate both of you.
So anyway, I just want to let everybody know that out loud. The other thing I want to talk about is Pony Picture Day. Pony Picture Day is Monday, where we're going to be having a photographer here and we're taking everybody's photograph. And I call it Pony Picture Day because there's a significant time in Tish's life when, and I tried to bring this picture in, but she's hiding it at the office, where she was like 5, 6 years old in kindergarten, and it's like Pony Picture Day, literally sitting on a pony, and this is a school photo that means a lot to me. And I brought this one in, this photograph, this is my granddaughter, and this was her Pony Picture Day. She's probably only about 2 years old in this picture. And the Pony Picture Day is about, you know, trying to, it's a time when it's a significant time in your life. And for her, this significant time came at about 2, 3 years old, and then from there, it was like she's in love with horses. She's like 13 now and rides all the time. And it was just one of those moments. Tish was the same way. You know, fell in love with horses a lot more than she loves me, but I deal with it, and she just absolutely loves it because of it. Pony Picture Day, I call it that for Monday for the town, because we're going to be taking everybody's photograph. We're going to be putting these photographs on the website that is under construction right now. And that means everybody here, everybody hopefully has got an email talking about that. And I'm hoping everybody can be here, because what we want to do is create this kumbaya kind of a website that has everybody's photograph. And I want this to be a turning point for everybody in the town, that we have it reminds us of why we're here and what we're doing, and that's to better the town of Apple Valley. And so that's why I named it Pony Picture Day, because it was turning points in 2 people's lives of mine, and I want to be a turning point for everybody that works for the town, to remind everybody that with your photograph on that page. I'm the fire chief, I'm the town council, I'm on the planning commission, and it reminds us why we're doing what we're doing.
Well, for a day, I was trying to figure out what the acronym for pony picture was, because I thought there was like something behind it.
No, we won't have a pony here, but it was it's something that meant something to me, so I thought I would explain it in the town meeting, and that's what we're doing, so. For the mayor's update, I want you to know that there's a place on the website right now, it'll be on the new website as well, that allows us to go on to the homepage, bottom of the page, and there's a sign-up form that allows everybody to sign up for email or texting reminders. When you go to that site and you put in your phone number, then when we want to send out an email reminder or text reminder, town council meeting, the fire department will have access to it as well. There's a place where you can just check mark fire department. They can send out text to everybody, you know, burn day's finally here, or don't burn today, whatever it is that he feels is important. Reminders for events, trunk or treat is coming, that kind of stuff. And so it's just a way that we can try to help communicate better with everybody at large. So anyway, so feel free to sign up on that. And let me get a couple more things here in 1 second. I had a UDOT meeting today, kind of wanted to go over a little bit. The UDOT has set aside about $3.5 million for shoulder widening along our corridor. It starts really just outside of Hilldale and it goes through down to milepost 22, which is the top of the Hurricane Hill. And it's quite a significant project. Some of the stuff that we looked at briefly, let me back up and rephrase how that sounds. $3.5 million sounds like a lot of money, and it probably ticks off 2 of the many projects in that 22 miles. And so they don't have enough money to do everything, but they're asking us as a community, where's your preference and what are your hot spots that you're concerned about? And so we've talked over, you know, a lot of different things, and I'm going to, there's a website available that tells you exactly what's going on with each of the projects and what the milepost is, markers that includes that project. And so any feedback you guys want to give me on that, I'm wide open to listen to. If you'll, I'll send out a link on that to everybody for the UDOT project, and then we can, along with that comes, you know, how much money they have, if they estimate that project will be, and I'll give you a quick example. It's about 1.8 million, I think it was, to extend that lane on that second road up. I want to call it by what's that trail? At the top of the second hill.
Gem Trail?
Gem Trail. So right around that Gem Trail, talking about extending that lane almost to the cinder pits, the passing lane. And then where that stops, they would have a passing lane going the other direction that came up to probably the Dead Man's Curve or thereabouts. So so that's a couple of projects that were just to bring it up to the cinder pits. That was $1.8 million. And so that doesn't leave, you know, very much left over for whatever else. But these guys, they think out way ahead, and I love that. I went to this meeting today. I was thinking it was a group meeting at the time that I made the appointment. I go there, and it's me and it's them. And so it was kind of nice to have them one-on-one. The number one thing that I didn't want to leave the room without talking about was the speed limits. I know the 2 mayors before me have asked to have the speed limits changed and lowered, and I was probably firmer than possibly in the past that it have been, and I just said this is, I mean, I can ask for some volunteers, you know, see if someone wants to die on the road to help get the numbers up for you guys to wake up to the fact that people are dying out here. Anyway, I kind of, I put a lot of pressure on them in a good way, in that I want them to know that I'm passionate and I care about the town, I care about the people, and we got to slow this speed limit down because it's insane out there when you're trying to a truck is leaving the station and they're going 0 miles an hour, trying to merge into traffic that's going 75 and 80 because they're breaking the speed limit. And so we had a good conversation about it, and I explained to him that I'm not mad, I'm just passionate about it. And I feel like that I got my message through. They're telling me that they can't legally even come out here and change it arbitrarily. They have to put together a matrix of different issues. They have right on their screen how many deaths, how many fatalities, how many accidents. You know, they have all these calculations or figures already in there. I also pointed out to them that I felt like they were hurting our business ability here, our expansion ability as far as development goes, because the speed limit is so fast that it absolutely changes the dynamic of, you know, people at the station, the RV park that's coming in, things like that. It changes completely what the requirement is for these guys to come in and build. And so when you have those kind of issues, you have, you know, we've got to ask them to spend a lot of money on the highway. Nowhere near enough money for all the projects along all of the corridor. And I made a point to them that the speed limit is something we could do today that would help save lives. This is a time when we could try to slow that traffic down, and that's something that them and us, we could do right now. It's great that we want to make the road itself safer, but we could slow the traffic down, and that would help right now. Anyway, I hope some of the message got through. I think every time that they see me, they're going to hear the same thing, and I'm not going to back off. I just, you know, I just wanted you to know I'm going back to the town as far as trying to make that happen. Their question to me was, how are we going to enforce it? And my suggestion is that lighted sign that we had. For many of you that have driven in here and you see that one that the county put out there, it lights up, it was flashing red. Countless times I'm behind somebody and they're tapping their brakes. That's what we want them to, that's what we want to happen. We want them to come into town, tap their brakes, because, you know, the speed limit just changed. And I'd like to see one at each end of town that does that when we get that speed limit down. They said, how slow do you want it? I said, 50 miles an hour would be awesome for me. And I just figured there was a negotiating point that might probably end at 55, but anything would be better than what we have as far as slowing down just a little bit. I pointed out that from Hilldale, they have it. There's hardly any intersections in Hilldale where they have it as well. There's only 1 or 2 roads that even intersect that road where they slowed it down to 50 miles an hour. There's no reason that they shouldn't give us the same courtesy.
It's 40 right there in Hilldale at the gas station.
Well, that's just that real small section by the gas station, that one intersection.
Yep.
And
It's
that's
50 all the
what,
way out to Bees.
Right, it's 50
Yeah,
all the
but
way to
the
Bees, but that's in
state line
Arizona too.
yeah.
The state line isn't too far, you know.
And they go the whole way, and I pointed that out. I pointed out
So as it hits Utah, it's 40.
Big Water, you know, you've got the Big Water, and they have it slowing down to about 55 there. They have one of
Yeah,
those
they
lights.
do. Yeah.
And as a boater, I go out there not often enough, and there's people in front of you, they're tapping the brakes because they've got one of those signs that lights up and tells them how fast they're going. And I think it's a deterrent. I think it can help slow things down. And so just want to share with you that some of the conversation we had with that today, trying to
Big Water has $120,000 revenue from speeding tickets. They pay $85,000 for a police officer to enforce that. Just FYI.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's a net gain.
We got Mr. Ederson right there. He's a retired police officer. We're still giving him a cruiser parking out there.
Oh yeah,
Oh, wouldn't that be fun?
he does not want to do that. He's retired.
Lights on the DUI.
We should get one of the old retired
We
cruisers
put
like
lights
they
on
have
that bike he's got right there.
and just put it on the road.
We'll talk later.
They click a ticket.
Yeah, Fredonia has that guy with the canal.
big guy.
The big
Dummy.
guy,
Dummy.
police car, yeah.
I'll sit in there as the dummy.
I'll tell you. So anyway, the other issue I wanted to bring up in the mayor's, town update is, let me see if it's on here. No, it's on this discussion item, so. Anyway, if there's any questions, I guess the other thing I should update you on is we did move public comments to the end of the meeting. We didn't do that to punish anybody as much as some of the feedback we got was maybe that's a more appropriate time to make a public comment based on what was discussed in the meeting, but if you guys don't like it, you can just, voice it. We can always put it back up, so. Anyway, so I'm gonna, say that the mayor's town update is done. Should we, close that agenda item?
I was gonna just ask,
I just say we don't think we ever opened it, so.
yeah, I was just gonna ask if there's something that we can have the citizenry do, the petition, UDOT, along the same lines,
That's not a bad idea.
just to underline what you said, and to
Yeah.
keep a little bit of pressure on, so it's on their radar.
That's a fantastic idea.
Why don't we put together a petition, put it on the town website, and let everybody go click on it and sign it?
Exactly.
Good
Yeah.
idea.
I think it's
It'll
an
be that
excellent
easy.
idea.
Yeah.
I'll work on that. So, that's a really good idea, I like that. Item number 3, consent calendar. We've got, we haven't done this for a while because of lack of bookkeeping, but is there any questions about it?
An awful lot of paper.
Yeah. On the budget items and dollars, Denny and I are kind of in lockstep in that any place and every place that we can save a dollar, we're looking to do that. We don't want to treat this as our personal piggy bank and doing everything we can to help watch every item from this point forward. Some of this is from before I was even mayor, and that we're looking at start at 8:01 to 9:30. So, just wanted to say as a point of reference that Danny and I talked extensively about the budget and where we can try to shave off a few dollars here and there. We're going to be turning in some cell phones that we're not using, and anyway. Any questions from anybody?
I just have one question on 8.6, the interstate rock amount, the $3,700, is that part of that final bill that we had when we closed out the contract with them? We were responsible for up to no more than $6,000, is that part of that?
I have to tell you, I don't know the answer to that.
Yes,
We-
that's part of that. That was an agreement that the engineer had with Interstate at the end.
Is that when they report that one section? that-
Yes.
Yeah,
They would
$5,000 or
supply-
$6,000. Probably $5,000 or $6,000.
They got paid to fix their work?
Yeah. What the
Partially,
agreement was
it
at
was
the
a
end of the
partial, it was
gateway
an
project.
over amount, it was for the cuts. It was the extra cost for the cuts, basically, is what they claimed it was.
$3,700 to cut?
Yeah. The
$5
agreement was
grand
we
for the
would pay
cuts.
up
No.
to $6,000.
For the changes and the cuts and everything, that's what that was supposed to be for.
They got paid to fix their work.
Yeah.
Yep,
So basically, we could be still $2,300 on the hook to them if we go up to $6,000.
Well, there's, I'll just say it out loud, that there's quite a bit of stuff that I don't like. And it's, all of it happened before I was mayor, so it's not much I can do about this point. Is the checks cut, the deal was made by somebody else, and so anyway. You guys okay to sign off on this?
yes.
Yes.
Right,
Okay, so
We
we have a motion?
yeah.
I make a motion that we accept the consent calendar from August 2018 till September 2018.
I'll second that.
Vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Who was the second, or more than one
Michael.
person?
Would you do the second one?
We kind of went between us, so whoever,
Okay.
doesn't matter.
Yeah, they both said aye,
Okay.
the second did it, so, anyway, back to vote, I vote yes on this.
Aye.
That's it. All right, motion carries, and Title 11 is number 4. Title 11's been kind of in limbo for quite some time, and it's been passed off by Planning Commission, given over to council, back to the Planning Commission, passed off again by them. Now it's given to us to review and to accept. There are a couple of changes in there that I was proposing that we do. They're minor changes. We have some items in red. I don't know if anybody has a copy out there, but most of the stuff is grammar, you know, where we had chapter and it should say title. So there's quite a few places in there like that. We are, in the ordinance, there was the ability for someone to build on a prescriptive easement. We have plenty of those out there, and we hate not having, even though it's not a public road, it's not a dedicated road, it's prescriptive easement. We want to give them the ability to be able to build a house if they so choose. And so under the definitions, we've added a definition for prescriptive easement, what that means. And before anybody gets too excited, prescriptive easement it still has to be improved, by the way. And so in 11-1-4 in this, necessity of plat exemption from plat requirements. There is some provisions in here, and it states that a subdivision creating no more than 3 new lots may be approved by the town staff without the necessity of preparing a preliminary plat. And so we're going to give someone the ability that has, you know, 100 acres, they can divide into 3 pieces, and now they have a smaller piece they can sell. And it does not have to be on a, like in our old Title 11, it had to be on a dedicated road, which means they have to go in and dedicate the road, put in improvements to even split the lot in half. It was kind of ridiculous. And so we're cleaning up that part of it, our code, to make it easier for people to actually feel like they're not boxed in. On that same chapter, there's a, let me get the numbering right. So that was in section A that I just read. Now in section B, it says a lot or parcel resulting from a division from agricultural land or land located in open space or open space transitional zones is exempt from the plat requirements of this title. And it says if the lot or parcel meets minimum size requirements of applicable zoning and is only used for purposes allowed in open space transitional or agricultural zones. And so in the case of an OS or OST property, you can't build a house even as a result of this without doing a zone change. You would, as I read this, you would be able to, in concept, take your 100-acre piece of property and say peel off, you know, a couple of lots off of that. In other words, you'd be able to say that I'm going to take my 100 acres and divide it in 2, but I want one of those to be only 5 acres, or you know, or let's say a 50 piece, a 45-acre piece, and a 5-acre piece, and I want to build on the 5-acre. In this concept, we'd be able to allow them to do that, and then they would have to change the zoning unless it was already agriculture on that 5-acre piece to something that is buildable. In other words, if it's OS or OST, they couldn't do any building until they changed the zone on that 5-acre piece. But at the time they do that 5-acre piece, they could dedicate that road, improve the road, put in the curb and pavement along that 5-acre piece, and then actually build a house. And so it's loosening up that quite a bit from where we've been. Any questions from anybody on that? I just knew you would have something for me, Richard.
So we really want somebody to go out there in the middle of nowhere and put
No.
curb, gutter, and pavement on a piece of property if they want to build a house?
Well, they can't just go out in the middle of nowhere because they have to have water and they have to have power. So it allows them to divide the property and sell it. But if you're really out in the middle of nowhere, they can't do anything because they won't get a building permit without the water. approval from the fire chief, everything else. I mean, you've gotta have power out there. And so, yeah, some of these people that are way out there, there's nothing they can do.
Well, the power's pretty close to a lot of that, that's not even a big deal.
Yeah, but
Water's a
there's-
bigger issue, but they can still drill wells. They just have to
Right,
make
they
sure
could
they
drill
have
a
to-
well, and they could also, but yes, is the answer to your question, we're going to require them to do pavement out in the middle of nowhere. And the reason is because eventually, it's all gonna get paved if we do that. If we don't, it'll never get paved. And so that's still our standing on it. We don't want any more roads that aren't paved, because it's pretty ugly out there.
But it is only on the home site.
Exactly. Well, I don't wanna say just the home site, it's on the piece of ground that they're building on, so if it's 5 acres and that's 500 feet across, you know, they've gotta do 500 feet of road. So whatever the width of that property is. On page 9, we've made a change on adding those prescriptive easements into that terminology. Number 11, we're taking out an ordinance that was in here that doesn't apply to us. Page 14, we just had a typo on there as far as who the Water Conservancy District is and so forth. And there's a item on 15 that talks about fencing. And what they had in here is a solid masonry fence and that type of stuff, and we've taken that out. We're not going to require a minimum on fencing on some of these larger, on these pieces. And anybody have any questions so far?
Marty,
Yeah.
back to the road thing, I don't think that's gonna work very well.
Yeah.
And the reason why, if they can get power and they decide to drill a well, they're just gonna come up and say, hey, I want my road to be right here. When you put in a roadway with curb gutter and pavement, you need to have that road engineered from point A to point B, where all the curb is gonna drain to, where the boxes are gonna go, what ditches you're gonna go into, or retention ponds.
Oh, that's true.
If they try to do one piece right here, and they're down here, and the next guy's over here, it's a big, that's not gonna work without having some kind of great big engineering plan. And to require somebody to do that kind of work with engineering and everything else for a single house, nobody's gonna build.
Well, and that might be a problem, but here in Hurricane, for example, if the Hurricane's big enough to where there's places out there that there's no infrastructure at all, they're just saying, they will just say, no, I know you own this property, but we're not there yet, as far as catching up with water and sewer and roads. So
Right.
they'll just deny it. And I know we're not Hurricane, but at
And
the same time.
the county's the same way. Right now, the county will tell you the same thing, that, well, we don't have any water service, we don't have any power. If that's the case in some of these rural areas that we're in, and they wouldn't approve a building permit themselves.
No, absolutely incorrect, 100% incorrect. I'm building right now down in the county in the Gap. No power, no water, no nothing, no road improvements. The road washes out every single time it rains.
Mhm.
And the homeowner calls the county, complains, and they send a blade out there and they fix the road, so he can use it.
All right, well, stand corrected on that, but we still have fire issues that we have to talk about, and we have to have a passable road. And
We do need
And
to
if we
pass the
don't-
road.
when do you think we should start requiring these roads to be made then? And how do we do it? What's your suggestion on how we get?
Eventually, when the town gets big enough, the town's gonna have to do it. It's not a development.
That's my point though,
But
is
it's
that town, you're making a town responsibility when we get big enough.
If it's a development, require the developer to do it. But on a single family residence, I don't think we're gonna win that one. You might wanna talk to John Bramble down the Hurricane a little bit. He and I discussed that just a little bit.
Well, I just put in a commercial building
That's,
in Hurricane, and I put in big old honking sewer lines,
Mhm.
and there is no sewer.
Well, you're
There's
talking
no
about-
hookup on
You're
it.
talking about drainage.
I'm talking about drainage.
The
On a
3-foot
parcel that
drainage.
doesn't even have any drainage hooked up to it.
It's,
but you're also
Because
commercial,
it'll come.
because you're commercial. Commercial is the same as a developer. Single-family residence is the only thing I'm trying to distinguish from. A single-family residence, there's no way anybody can accept that kind of burden on a single-family residence. If it's a development, heck yeah, they gotta do it. If it's commercial, yeah, absolutely, they gotta do it.
Yeah,
Not
but
on
here's the
single-family.
deal is, we have, the lawlessness that's going on right now where people are drilling their wells that aren't adequate, putting in tanks that aren't adequate for fire suppression. And, you know, we can't do that. We have to think safety on these things. And whoever's here is here, but we don't have to let them keep doing that. We can start requiring that they put in a 60,000 gallon tank that has a fire hookup on it. And if their well is sufficient to fill that tank, then we're gonna be okay with it. But we're not gonna, you know, if they wanna go on solar, that'd probably be okay too. But on the roads, we have a road, master road plan. That's getting updated as well, but that, we have to have someone putting in those things. And as people start realizing they've gotta put it in, it's gonna change. But we can't take this on. It's like, let me back up a minute. I had a conversation with a lot of people this week on a lot of things, but one of them that stands out in my mind is someone that reminded me of something. She says, we all bought out here, knowing what we're buying into.
Right?
But all of a sudden, because everybody's out here, they're thinking, pave my road. Yet the reason they bought out here was because it was on a dirt road, because it was less money, because they liked the rural aspect of it.
Right?
And then all of a sudden, it's our problem, we have a dust bowl, and let's pave all the roads, and they wanna make it the town's responsibility because we're a town now. And, but when they bought the property, it was on a dirt road. And when they bought and built their house, they decided how high off the street level to build, whether or not they wanted to haul some dirt in to raise it up to keep it from flooding, things like that.
Right.
Those all factor into, and then all of a sudden it's all of our problem that we've got to fix all these issues. And she was just complaining to me that this is ridiculous that we've got to fix everybody's problem when most of them, those problems were there when they bought the house. They were bought, on the dirt road. And now what you're suggesting is that we compound the problem by letting it keep going.
No,
And I have a hard time with having been married only a month and a half. I can't tell you how many people I've talked to that are just upset over burrow ditches and the flooding and having to clean them and the dirt roads, the dust. I mean, it goes on and on. And at some point, if we don't say that we're gonna start requiring these roads to be paved, that are dedicated or not dedicated, we're never gonna get those roads paved. Because I'm telling you, even if we have a bunch of people out there, the bill just is bigger. And what I'm seeing so far is nobody wants to pay the bill. I was over at Mount Zion Drive. I suggested to them that why don't we do an SID as a Mount Zion Drive SID? Because it's really a Mount Zion Drive problem. It's not really a Town of Apple Valley problem.
Right?
So why don't we just do an SID, everybody chips in $50 a month and the problem can be solved.
Right?
And I had 0 people saying, oh, that's a great idea.
Well, then tell them to shut up.
Do you see what I'm saying though? When it comes time to do that out there, even if we did it, it would be their responsibility to pay that SID, and I'm gonna get the same thing back, that I don't wanna pay that. Why should I pay that? I pay taxes, let the town do it. But that's not how development happens, as you know.
Well, like I said, it's normal for a development or a commercial, but for a single family resident, somebody's buying a 5-acre piece of ground, they wanna live out in the middle of nowhere, and say, hey, that 5 acres, to go in front of 5 acres to do a pavement and curb and gutter, you're talking $150,000.
$100,000, yeah.
That's a lot to add to somebody's.
Well, that's gonna limit it though. I mean, you're taking the ability of someone to be able to downsize it a little bit, when normally those were 10 and 20 acre parcels.
Our last Title 11, you'd have to take the whole 50 acres or whatever it is they're doing, and you'd have to do anything that they, this property out by you, it's on the corner.
Right.
That whole property, I mean, you're talking about almost 1,000 feet of frontage on that property because it fronts Coyote and Little Creek Mesa.
Right.
And so the old Title 11 said he had to pave all of that in order to do anything. Now we're saying that you can lop off, you know, a little piece and just pay by you.
It's still a big cost for a single family resident, that's
It's
all
a
I'm
huge
saying.
improvement from what we've had too.
So,
But you add it into part of the build, that's it.
well, we're
It's an
already gonna
expense that
take
you
the
put
bills
into
out.
into the build. That's why I bought in Cedar Point subdivision, I had the roads, that, you know, so that's a choice you make.
I like the way you put that, because that's, you know, when you make that decision to buy where you're buying what's there. You're buying the problem, you're buying, you know, the issues, and, anyway, I think once people start paving sections of road, you're gonna find that the town starts growing from the middle out. And someone else is gonna say, I'll buy that lot, because the power's closer, the water's closer. And it's gonna make a decision on making someone who has water or power right by the property, it's gonna make it a little more attractive to someone compared to 40 acres that's way out there where you have
Water,
nothing.
water and power is easy issue. I'm only talking about the road, and it's just mainly with the engineering involved with where's it gonna go?
Right.
Where's the water?
And the
curb's gonna
engineering,
drain
we're
somewhere.
asking for an engineered design.
Oh,
We're
of
not
course we
telling,
are.
we're not telling them to not engineer it.
Well, you
so.
can't go build a road without engineering.
Exactly.
So, I mean, that cost is gonna go, that's what I'm saying, for a single family
It's
resident.
gonna add some money to it. I
There's
agree
gonna be
with
a
that.
lot to it.
And if someone wants to be out there bad enough, you know, they'll pay for the road on it. But right now, we're in, what Title 11 fixes, there's a few things that I like about it. The paved road issue, you know, I drive out there and I see how crappy those roads are. They're not even passable. You can't even go out there and fight a fire because if they're not washed out, they're muddy. And we can't keep going that way. But it does allow some of those larger landowners to go ahead and lop off, you know, take that piece and divide it into 3 pieces or something that allows them now to sell off some of their property. We've had people that can't even budge on that because of our old Title 11. And it's fixing that problem, so they can do that now. And,
There's good stuff to it. Like I said, I was only mentioning the one part, that's all.
I think it's a good idea to the most part. It's just, I think maintenance is gonna be a problem on those. I mean, some of these places where they're building like Bubbling Wells, you know that as well as I do. We're gonna get a road out there and it's gonna have 6 inches of sand on it, one windstorm, so I think that's another thing to think about too, is those roads, those gutters, everything's gonna be filled in no time, so. I
yeah,
don't know. I just
until they're
can't-
done, but there's really, I mean,
Yeah.
because of the way Bubbling Wells is, I don't know how else to fix the problem.
Yeah.
You've got so many people who are just happy to build a house on that muddy road that has no drainage, that washes out, and it just becomes a hazard for fire especially. And anybody driving home and all of a sudden they're falling into a ditch because there's a flash flood going on. It's,
Require them to put road base in to make it an 80,000 pound road for the fire trucks. Grade the ditches, whatever, that's not a big deal. That, you don't need a lot of engineering, you don't need, you know, that's something that somebody can handle. But the other, with the roadway, is a huge cost. I've had people call me about building out that way. And with the costs associated, they're like, yeah, see you, bye. I've had like 6 of them in the last little while. That's all the reason why I'm bringing that up. That's just too big for a regular person to put on their budget. Something to think about.
What about the maintenance to that chunk of property? Let's say you're in a development area where 3 people decide to put homes on that 5 acres. You've got asphalt, dirt, asphalt, dirt, asphalt. Who maintains that asphalt after they put it down and make it to your spec?
well,
And
if
then it
it's
gets tore up because of people driving on that.
if
road.
and I agree with you, it's a patchwork kind of a thing. And as people move out there, they're gonna have to tie into what's there. I mean, I agree with you, if it's a dedicated road, some of that's prescribed easements out there, so it depends if they dedicate it or not, whether or not we maintain it or they maintain it. And I thought hard about this. I've driven out there countless times, and it's a challenge, you know, to come up with a solution that's someday is gonna help that area have some blacktop. And I'm just looking at right now, the way the town's budget is, and that can change over a couple of years with, you know, new construction and so forth, but usually what happens is that new construction comes in, and we still have a problem with, budget, because now it takes more people to run the town, which is going out, one step further again, you know.
So I guess my question is, I mean, you have them do what you want them to do, put the pavement out in front of them, and they bring it up to your specs, does that road become yours, and when it gets
If
tore
they
up?
dedicate it, yes, yeah.
So when it gets tore up, you're in charge of maintaining that section?
Right. But
So don't you
blacktop
think
is,
that,
blacktop is
that's
gonna last a
gonna
whole lot longer than anything else, so. It's not, I'm not asking for a chip and seal, we're asking for blacktop, so you've got usually about 15 years. But I know the edges can get broke off, and because there's not, you know, another, it's not curb to curb.
be, and that's what I'm getting at, there's where your maintenance is gonna be, and that's where the cost of the town
And
is
the,
gonna
and the
go
other
up.
option is we make them do the whole 60 feet of road, which isn't a great option, because it's worse probably, you know, for dollars. And so we're trying to come up with something
Can't do
that's,
that.
that makes sense,
We
in that,
cannot require them to do 60 feet of
and that's
road.
why we're not.
Absolutely can't do it.
And that's why we're not. But the point is we still have to ask for, at least their section to be dedicated. If it's a prescribed easement, they don't want to dedicate it, that's all right by me, but we still have to require the pavement,
Well,
so.
I think we have to look at that requirement on that pavement of where the property's at, because people out by us, I bought out there because there's no pavement. I don't want a pavement. I don't want people already drive fast enough past my road. And I'm okay if we put road base. I take care of my own road, and I grade the road for not just me, but everybody out where I live, all the time. And I
Well, we
do it out of
can-
my own pocket.
We can talk about doing a change on that if we want private roads and just call them prescriptive easements, and do we have to pave those? Today, Title 11, to be honest with you, I'm not even sure it says that word for word in there. That was kind of my assumption, that because that's a minimum road standard, that's what we're gonna do. But it could be we decide that through planning commission, we wanna go ahead and let people have their dirt roads, and if they're private and they're willing to maintain them like you, then, you know, so be it. But we still have to have some minimum standards on
Right.
fire and safety and
Exactly.
power.
And if they're gonna put 3 or 4 homes to where they're developing it, put the dang paved road in, it's a development. But for a single family home, that's all I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to, because there's 6 people that would have bought and moved in out there had we had something a little bit more usable, is all I'm trying to
All
say.
right. Well, I appreciate your feedback, and
Okay.
I'll talk to Cynthia and the planning commission about it, let them bounce it around,
Okay.
and see if that's something they'd like to make a change on, and then, you know, we can kinda talk about it. For the most part, when I talk to the planning commission, they really don't wanna obstruct anybody from being able to build if it's reasonable. What you're proposing, I don't think it's unreasonable at all. And, it just means we're gonna have a lot of, private roads, and, so,
Well,
anyway, we'll take it from there, so. Marty, you got a hand up?
You know, I believe out like in Dameron Valley, that they have like an association and everybody pays for the roads and the fire department. And maybe we should look into something like that.
I didn't,
Who's gonna pay, when you say they all pay, who's they?
The whole area pays.
It's a special service district.
It's like a special service district, I guess, but everybody pays. I don't know how it's set up, but I remember when I was looking out there, I asked, and that's how they do their roads and fire department. So,
okay.
that's something to look into.
And they're also, I was doing some research, I was trying to find out, I wonder how they handle it, because they're similar to our community in that they have borough ditches, they just have blacktop, they don't have curb and gutter.
Right.
And, I wanted to see how it is their code was, and, I couldn't find their code online, but what I found were some articles about how they have flooding issues just like us.
Well, just a suggestion to, you know, maybe generate funds somehow. I don't know how it's set up. You know, I can't remember what that guy, that's the developer out there, was it Pierce?
Yeah, it's been too long for me too.
You know, I know like, in Laverton, their fees for the fire department down there, $350 for everybody that puts a permit in for the house, and that goes directly to their fire department. So we just started a new house down there for some people, and that's 3 weeks ago, we had to pay that fee for that home. I know our fee is what, $50 or something towards our fire department. So we really should be looking at that.
That's good advice. So I appreciate your feedback. Any other questions, comments? Anyway, if nobody has any other questions, do I hear a motion on Title 11?
I move that we approve Title 11 as changed with all the markings.
With the red line.
Red lines.
And we had X'd out on that, Michelle. Can you include that in your motion for me?
On this part here.
So on page 6, that item number 2.
Okay.
Can you just restate the whole motion?
Yes. I move that we approve Title 11 as annotated. To include the change on page number 6. It should be 11 -1-4.
Item B2.
B2.
No, we're just X element.
Striking B2.
Just striking B2.
Striking B2,
Yeah.
which as it is not used and will not be used. Okay. Striking B2 and changing the current B3 to B2. Is that confusing enough?
Do you want me to read it back, please? Can you tell me? what
Sure.
you want? Okay, moves that we approve Title 11 as annotated to include the change on page, or actually on 11-1-4, striking B2 and changing current B3 to B2.
That works. Second?
Second?
I second the motion.
Vote. Aye.
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 Number 5, discussion on Apple Valley Rapid Response. We had Debbie, I think, as the brainchild of Rapid Response. You want to talk about this one, or you want me to do it for you?
I just came up with the name.
Okay, she came up with a name, so. Anyway, what Rapid Response was, we were wanting to collect information from people. If a horse got out, who would you call? And I'd like that list put together that if it's cattle, who do we call? It ain't gonna be me, but if it's a horse, you could call me, that kind of thing. And so we're looking for town volunteers that have an expertise in some fashion. You know, Richard called me about a backhoe. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to help him with a backhoe, but that's the kind of stuff we want. Is I want Richard to call me and, yeah, you can use my Kubota if it would work, but you know, what you need is a bigger piece of equipment. But I'd like to see the town itself, all of our community, pull together where we need to in different areas. And can you give us a couple of examples of where that rapid response is going to help?
Like when Lily had an issue with her horse a year ago. There wasn't anybody to help her get the horse out of the ditch, and the town wasn't able to do it. So eventually they got in touch with somebody.
And I would like to correct something on that. Richard asked if he could borrow the town backhoe to bury a horse. And I had to decline because that horse will be there tomorrow, and we could try to, you know, there's enough people privately that have the equipment that I felt like that would be appropriate. If the horse was stuck in the ravine and we needed the backhoe to help pull the horse out, I'd be all for that, because it's now a rescue as opposed to just burying a horse that's died. And so in a case like that, I just want you to know there's some flexibility where I think that if it's a rescue, absolutely, we want to be there to help in any way we can. And I'll get down there in my boots to help you do it as well. But what we're trying to do is put a list together of people that would be able to volunteer. And you know, we have some people. Let me expand it out one notch. I know 2 of my neighbors that have the small tractors that have the bush mower on the back of them.
Brush cutters, yeah.
Brush cutters. And you know, we have people that have a problem doing the weed maintenance on their own. And some of them, whether it's finances or their ability, their age, mobility issues, things like that, there could be a time where we go over to Alan Angel and say, could we borrow your, brush cutter, put it on the back of my tractor, I'll let you borrow my tractor with his brush cutter, and we can make this happen. And anyway, what I want to do is put together a list of people that have equipment and the resources and the ability to help out where we need to. So as a community, we can come together and help each other.
That's kind of like that lady with her, just a resident out here, her horse had passed that morning, I guess had colic or something, and they called me because they knew I had some equipment. Well, my equipment wasn't available, it's down in that county job, and the wash had washed, and I weren't about to try to go fix it to get my machine. So the easy thing was to find one close by and just go do it for her, which we were able to do, but
Yeah.
took a while. We got it figured out.
And that's where that can help us out. If we identify who does have that equipment, who's willing to, on those kind of occasions, help us out. It would be nice to know where that list is and have it, at least in somebody's hands so we can make a call. And anyway, I've talked to, like I mentioned, many people. We have the Pony Picture Day I talked a little bit about, and I went over and approached Christy, who's a professional photographer, and said, any chance you might want to do these photos for us? And she said, oh, absolutely, I'd love to. And it's like, okay, what would it cost me? As my next question, because I got to see if I can afford her. He says, I wouldn't charge you guys anything to do that. And that's what we're talking about, is having the community chip in where they can to help us out. It helps our budget, and I think it brings us together as a community. And so Rapid Response is about trying to come up with some numbers, people sign up for, I can help if you've got this kind of a problem. So
Maybe on the next month's utility bill, we can have a.
we'll put a flyer in it or something. Yeah.
So, on that, if it's an emergency, just call the dang
Of course.
911.
Yeah. Of course.
That Lily thing and everything like that, that could have turned into a secondary incident really fast, so.
And it was pouring down rain at that moment too.
Yeah,
So,
if you're wanting to do this, I'm all for it. I just don't want to be called out to someone who a horse fell on or something like that, and we had no idea something was going on.
But at the same time, I'd like you to be able to have the list that says that, hey, I'll call Marty because he's got a horse trailer and he knows how to work horses. And
So there's a fine line
So-
between emergency and helping and that type of stuff, and I just want to see
And then some of this rapid response, I'm not talking about emergency services anyway. I'm talking about someone's got weeds and who's got a weed eater that can help
And you're
or
gonna
maybe
also,
knock them down.
yeah, you're gonna also
So-
put a disclaimer like you see everywhere, if this is an emergency, call.
Yeah,
911.
exactly, a waiver. or
And
something
that,
like
and those
that.
have been out there forever. But, and not just people with equipment, people who have time. I don't have any expertise, but I have work gloves,
Yeah, big one pops into my head,
Yeah.
Kingsley's house. So.
Yeah.
Well, we have, and I know that Paul's done, I see him hauling wood over to the neighbor's house and to different people, widows and some people that are, maybe financially challenged, and that's the kind of stuff where, hey, I've got some wood, I've got time, I can come help split some wood. This is the kind of stuff we're talking about, trying to help with neighbors helping neighbors kind of a thing.
Or in the winter time, if we have snow a lot, and it's an elderly person, we have a snow blower.
Yeah. So,
We've done similar things with the fire department already, so we can expand on that.
so rapid response is just something we'll develop as we go along, and just want everybody to know about it. Item 6, looks like Rod's not here, so we'll table that. Approval of minutes, September 5th. Any questions on that?
I've read all the minutes.
I move that we approve minutes September 5th, 2018.
Second? Second, then.
Vote. Aye.
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 And minutes for,
I've read September 19th as well.
the one change that I'd like to make on that is possible on the 19th, page 1. There is one comment in here I didn't agree with, was that the $10 a month charge on your bill is not for cleaning ditches. This money is meant to bring in $3,000 to $30,000 a year. The right number is closer to just the $30,000 a year or $3,000 a month is ballpark. Wasn't that a ballpark number on that, Tish? So it's the 3,000, when I mentioned that is a monthly amount, and
It
the
ranges
30,000.
between 2,800 and 3,000 a month.
Yeah,
So relatively, if you put $35,000 a year annually, you're probably in the ballpark.
Well, in that meeting though, I said 3,000 a month to 30,000 per year, I think, so we can just leave it at that, because we're trying to just clarify that the 3,000 wasn't an annual thing, it was a monthly thing.
So just maybe add a month?
Yes,
after
per month,
3,000.
about 3,000 a month or 30,000 a year, and that's the ballpark numbers I used in that meeting.
Okay.
So, and other than that, with that change,
The
I'm
way
okay
the
to
minutes
approve this.
read, it looks like it's revenue, period.
Yeah, that's not
That's
a,
misleading.
yeah, no. This is just the minutes right now,
Okay.
Okay.
so.
I move that we approve the minutes of September 19th with the change under the town update. The money is meant to bring in 3,000 per month to 30,000 per year.
I'll second that.
Vote. Aye.
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 And so, reports, events committee-ish?
So the next event we have is Halloween, and we're having a trunk or treat, which is bring your kids and bring your candy and come on down to the fire station, and we'll be out in the parking lot, and the kids can just go from car to car as opposed to house, will end your night a whole lot sooner, and not to mention be safer for the kids. So it starts at 7 o'clock, and we'll be here, the events committee will have the cars and candy in the trunk, and whoever kids show up, let their hearts be full of candy and sugar.
I have my
Teeth be full of cavities.
I have my good authority that someone bought large candy bars too, to hand out, so it's not the small stuff. Planning commission, Cynthia
He's already
Bryan or
been
Mike?
there.
I don't have anything. Just more.
I haven't bought it, you can put that to one.
And, fire department,
So I gotta set up a meeting, maybe, Mark, you can help me with, maybe talking to your husband and kinda getting, a bunch of people together. Don't you guys have the association out there or something like that, right?
Uh-huh.
About that gate? So I wanna set up a meeting with you guys and maybe, cause we're not getting access to that gate, period. So they're not giving it to us, so. Maybe we can set up a meeting and get as many of that, many as we can from that community around and have a talk about it.
But I'll try. Let me know what day, I'll try, but,
I'll come bother you then sometime. Also, I talked with the mayor about the LEPC and how it's been kinda just, not looked at for a good amount of time, well, since April, it was let go. So, that's the local emergency preparedness committee that she was running.
CERT?
So, yeah, certs and all that stuff, so that has been just let go for a long time now. And, there's a meeting in November, I'm gonna go to that and try and figure out what she was doing, and then feed that to the mayor and see who's gonna wanna.
well, we'll see if we can get a volunteer for that.
Yeah, see maybe who would like to try and tackle that a little bit. We got winter fire school coming up in January, right? January, so that's a bunch of training we'll be going to. I just got, roughly about $3,000 in, boxes given to me by Adam Hyder from the Color Country for free, so that's gonna help us to get going on some other
Can you
stuff.
expand on that, what boxes mean?
The boxes are what, if you see on the Type 6 engine, we have those big aluminum boxes that carry all the equipment inside of them.
Like toolboxes for your trucks?
Yeah, toolbox, pretty much toolboxes.
Oh, awesome.
We got like 5 or 6 of those boxes, so we'll be able to set up the next truck and everything like that, the Hummer. Burn season started on October 12th. It's going right now, most of the weeds are wet still. So I think it says right in our burn permit, don't burn wet weeds, cause I get 100 phone calls about smoke everywhere. So, just wait for them to dry out and call me first. And then, there's not enough people here. I wanted to have a discussion on possibly the fire department putting some of the fundraiser money towards a wood chipper for mitigation for our community. Buying a wood chipper, and then people can, when they do their trimmings in the spring or the fall, or whenever you do your trimmings, and you can bring them down here, or we can haul it to your house, maybe 2 days or 3 days a month. The fire department will haul it to your house and let you get some wood chippings from that, and that'll go towards mitigation and stuff like that, so we can use it as an in-kind service.
Can we look at a,
What's the cost of something like that?
can we look at an auction on
I
that?
think they're about 1,000 to 2,000 depending on horsepower and diameter and stuff like that, but we're looking at 4 inches to be the smallest, and I think they're around 1,200, I wanna say 1,200 to 1,400, I think.
If we-
So,
Can we get one that, runs on hydraulic? A little bit cheaper?
we probably
Got
could.
a few skid steers in town, I might donate mine during that season or whatever, I'm gonna help out, or
Okay.
even, we can even plumb the backhoe.
Or Kubota? You know, or
Kubota.
Kubota could run it?
So
Yeah, that would work.
The hydraulic ones
Any
are a lot cheaper
ideas?
because you don't have motors.
And I don't know a ton about them, so we'll get together and kind of talk about it.
And look at some Ritchie Brothers and some stuff like
Yeah.
that.
You just don't wanna, you wanna get a quality one, cause it's gonna get
Yeah.
used.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I looked at some decent ones. I mean, there was $800 ones, and they just didn't, the horsepower wasn't there,
So we
so.
need something that'll do at least a 4 inch for sure.
Yeah, that's
And
what-
anything smaller than that's just junk, it doesn't, it's not gonna do anything.
Well, if you're talking about hydraulically run, it seemed like because you're not buying a motor, you could get maybe higher quality equipment for that kind of
Exactly.
decent money,
Possibly,
because
yes.
you're not buying a motor.
Mhm.
Yeah, so.
Yep,
Good idea.
I think it's a great idea.
So,
I'm
yeah,
for it. I'm for it.
that'll help with, you know, I mean, we got a lot of people who got, well, I mean, just that ditch over there with a 36-inch round behind Josie's comes out, that is just packed full of trimmings from people around the neighborhood, just putting
I'll
in
just dump them in there.
Yeah,
tree limbs
they
everywhere, so.
trim up the trees and throw them in the wash.
Yeah, so it might stop some of that going on, hopefully. It's getting colder now, so watch the roads. We're supposed to have some more water here, I think this weekend, I think it's coming. So if it freezes, watch, Cedar Point's a bad area. We always have wrecks right there by that hill. Just watch the roads, cause early in the morning, if you're traveling at 5, like some of us do, it's gonna be ice. There's gonna be ice if we got water, so.
Do we happen to have the salt spreader on anything the town owns to help out with some of that stuff?
Never seen it. I haven't seen it.
I think the county came in one time and did it for us when we had some bad icy roads. So I think it's a phone call to get them to do that.
If it's on the highway, that's state, and state's supposed to take care of that, but getting them up here in
They
town.
come in with plows usually, that's what
Right.
they do usually, so.
That's where that you know, rapid response can come into play. Is there's a lot of people that have a little tractor that can come plow somebody's driveway if we get a bad thing.
Yep,
We just have to ask around. So,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt.
yeah,
You're good.
no, I'll put myself on there to help out with my equipment too, so.
We also got some more training coming up. We got a hazmat ops course that we signed up for. It's a 40-hour class. A few of us are gonna be taking that. Mitigation, I've had meetings with Adam Hyder, took him out to breakfast. He's supposed to be getting me a schedule of when they're gonna be doing mitigation. And I've already told Denny, but any of the mitigation that I do and go out on, the $25 an hour, I'm just gonna donate that back into our fund or whatever and try and keep that going. So the other guys, we will be paying them, but we still make a little bit of profit on what they make. I think it's down to like 17 they make, and I think we get a few bucks in every hour off of them. So also, wish there's more people here, but the detectors in your homes, check them. Everybody's gonna be starting with their fireplaces. We want all their CO detectors working, and just be aware of the smells and stuff like that.
Quick question for you, out in Hilldale, fire department has a chimney sweep, but
Yeah.
this time of year, they let you go sweep your chimneys.
Rent it. I think they rent it or something like that.
They check it out to you, they make you leave a deposit,
Yeah,
so that they get it back, and then it's free actually, but, I mean, as long as you bring it back, they don't charge you for
we
it,
don't have one, I know that.
so.
It's something, it's a good idea.
Something to look into,
Yeah.
because, you know, that'll, clay chimney's gonna reduce the risk of fire.
Yep. And to go along with the fire fireplaces, we've had on the budget like 3 years now to try and get a 4 gas detector, and we've kind of been shut down on it multiple times. So most of the time when we do get a call and I go to a home where the lady is smelling gas in her house, all we can do is evacuate the person and wait for Hilda to show up with a gas detector. So it's kind of it's a high priority in my eyes. So, and I know they're a little pricey, so they're 400. I think the cheap ones are 200, but you really don't want to get a cheap one of those gas detectors because you really want to know what's going on in the environment. So that's just something to think about. If I come at you with 3 bids or something like that, then you guys can look at it and then we'll talk about it. And if you guys say it's okay, then we'll do it. So that's all I got. Anybody got any questions?
Just tomorrow, you guys have a meeting that you usually do a meeting on Thursday, or?
Training night every Thursday night.
And what does that entail, like tomorrow night?
Tomorrow night, I think we're doing a pack test tomorrow night, which is a 3 miles, 45 minutes with 45 pounds on your back. And then we also have a refresher course where we possibly, if we have time, we'll be doing a refresher course also. It's for a wildland training, so I think 5 or 6 of them will be doing that. That's what'll be going on tomorrow night. So not a ton tomorrow night, just a pack test. So we'll be walking all the way down in Mount Zion Circle and coming back all the way this way in a certain amount of time. So
I was, okay, is it appropriate to bring some pizzas or something in at some certain time for the guys, or?
Sure, when we're getting back, I could text. You want me to text you or something when I know we're
It's my anniversary tomorrow, so you know.
I can't imagine if they know.
But I was thinking I could probably talk somebody into bringing some pizzas down or something, just.
We got young guys that can eat like 9 hot dogs and 4 burgers, so.
And they'll be hungry.
Yeah.
All right.
For a pack.
So they eat, so I'm sure it won't go to waste, let's
Well,
put
we
it that
need
way.
You know, you gotta drive, I think, down to, you know, Hurricane to get for me, a better pizza.
Yeah.
So, sorry.
Sorry, station.
Sorry, station, but the sandwiches and hampers are great.
I could eat
Pizza.
their pizzas a long time
Anyway,
ago, so.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll talk about what
Okay.
kind of a target time, and I just wanna thank the guys by feeding us some pizza afterwards, so.
Okay, thank you.
And then, anything else for anybody? Questions? Next item was Rod Mills, he's not here. Then Big Plains Water, Harold's not here. Anybody have anything from Big Plains Water? Or? Okay, then code enforcement, Kevin Sayre, Paul Edwardson.
Now that we have a little bit more information, I think we're gonna start to do some code enforcement. And it depends on how much it's gonna cost us if the person doesn't wanna comply, but we're gonna look into that. Well, I'm not talking already about that.
We need to set a meeting with Rachel and let's hammer it
Yeah,
out.
there's some kind of egregious violators who basically said, no, we're not gonna do anything. So we have to, that's just like spit in the face of the town, and that's throwing down a gauntlet, we can't ignore it, so. Anyway.
I got a question for you on that. When the attorney was here, he was talking about if we just go make a new ordinance or a new code, there's people that are grandfathered in, we can't just go force that on them. So how does that come into play?
Let's just say it's a violation where they were violating prior to the town being established. That's the grandfather.
County jurisdiction.
There we can't, but we have adopted by reference the county ordinances that govern all that. So we're good to go.
Question, so on that, through the IFC and my dealings with the IFC so far, any fire hazard that relates to that cannot be grandfathered in.
Right. That makes sense, you bet.
Okay.
But yeah, it is time that we got going on, so.
Road and storm drainage, I think that's Denny's department now.
Yeah, well, I took a ride with Dale the other day, and we checked out all the piping that we could see, and checked out a couple areas that was a concern in South Zion Estates that was now been covered up, it's okay. There are some drainage places that need to be cleaned out, we gotta contact the people and clean them out. And there's a bunch on Canyon Drive that just filled up and it goes out in the street, so we're trying to determine, is it our responsibility or is it the state, because it faces BLM land, so once we find out what that is, we need to clean it out so we can keep on flooding over. So everybody should know that they're responsible for their own drainage in front of their property, but we'll be looking at it.
Denny, on that. So this is kind of personal, I guess. The front of my property, you know, you've seen it
Yes.
or whatever. When they did the roads, they filled in the ditch and
Yeah.
they completely covered it and it's gone. And I brought this up a long time ago, but it's not there, period. It's just flat. So they filled it in when they did the roads, and I talked and asked about it and everything like that, and it was the same old, we'll take a look at it, you know, but nothing ever really happened. And I think it happened to me and the neighbor beside me.
Quite a few people.
Meekum, I think his name is. Anyways, there's not a ditch there, it's just covered.
Do you wanna go down to the neighbor's fence?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so.
All right.
And I know he had a hand in that too back in the day, because he used to run his grader on the road and piss people off.
Make sure you call Blue Stakes.
Pardon me?
If you're gonna dig it, make sure you call Blue Stakes.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, you know, some of those culverts like out in our area are like pretty full. I know one of them is totally blocked. So how do those people clear them out? Because the one that's blocked made a, you know, like a big ditch on the road.
If it's a culvert that's in your driveway, there's some business cards here with someone that I've done a lot of business with, Royce Jessup, and he's actually going to be cleaning one out for us on Apple Valley Way. And the reason he's cleaning that one out at our expense is because it goes across the roadway. So when it crosses a roadway, that's not my problem. And so if it's a driveway culvert, then that's your problem.
Well, I know, but I
you
mean, how
can
do you clear them out?
Well, he's going to, I've got permission from the SSD to hook up to a hydrant. They want us to make sure we use a meter, so we have a check valve in place, but says just come over and borrow the meter and, you know, flush it out with that if you want to. And they weren't gonna charge us for the water or for that, but you know, he's just a guy that has the equipment that could come over and help you do that. And he's reasonable on charge.
I've done some research on this.
Okay.
They have what they call culvert adapters. They hook onto a pole and they collapse, and then you pull a lever and then it expands, and then you can drag it out. You can drag it out with a four-wheeler, you can drag it out with a tractor, you can drag it out with, you know, 14 boys, whatever. But it goes in and it's collapsed, so it kind of goes in and then it goes like this, and then you pull it on out and it brings all the mud and gunk out there. They're $55 on Amazon, and they attach to either a pole or some sort of rope. I mean, there's different applications. And
Good to know.
they're pretty reasonable. And they come in 18-inch, 24-inch, and I think I saw 30, but it was more money. And it was something I thought was
Well, for
pretty
that
reasonable.
kind of money, we could just try it. And
They also have adapters that work with backhoes, and they come out in a big arm, and they go in and then pull it out with a backhoe. So that might be something we could look at too.
That's pretty cheap, man. We should buy a few and let the town people come and check them out so they can keep their ditch clean.
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea.
So I've had 3 culverts, 3/4 inch or 3/4 of the way full over by my storage units. I dug probably a 8-foot section above and below those culverts with mini-X. The next storm that came through, that hole fills up so the water doesn't hit it all at once. It fills up and starts flowing through that culvert. All 3 of those culverts are completely cleaned out.
That's a really good idea, because now you're getting water, not mud.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're getting a settling bowl basically.
Yeah, like a
before the
regular
culvert.
culvert.
And
Exactly.
then it'll accept everything out of the culvert on the other side.
Danny, with the storm drain thing, one thing we need to look at is our town engineer needs to have his head examined or something, because storm drainage and sewer, you cannot have the same size of pipe from this point of town to that point of town. It doesn't work. It has to increase in size every time you collect a certain amount of property with it. Problem is, right now, is our whole town has 15-inch culverts. Doesn't really, if we have culverts going out to this ditch and we pick up 10 houses, the first 4 or 5, yeah, that'll be fine, but by the time we hit 9, 10, and we get all these extra lots, that's gotta increase. This guy in the corner across from him, the guy that just bought the house, his name's Robertson. He contacted me. He wants us to go dig out his culverts and clean it and dig out the ditch and everything like that. He's at the bottom of the hill. Got all those houses above him that all have the 15-inch. He's right before it crosses the road. The one crossing the road is a 36-inch pipe, but his are 15. What is wrong with the engineer? We can't take all this water and put it into a 15-inch pipe and expect it to flow and not flood out the next guy down the road. So if we're gonna help these people and give them culverts and say we're buying the pipe and, you know, or you buy the pipe and we put it in whatever we're doing, we need to have a plan. Okay, where are you? How far away is that ditch? Where's it going? Okay, you have to put in this size of pipe. You gotta pay for it. We'll put it in, whatever. 15 across the board doesn't work. That part is how we as a town are making ourselves responsible for the flooding that's happening to our residents. Cleaning out the ditch, that's all on them. That's completely on them. But the fact that we gave them 15-inch pipes to collect all this water, that's stupid on our town. I mean, engineer needs to really think.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think that 15-inch came from county ordinances, that's what they require in this kind of a situation. And I remember reading that, yeah, but you're totally right. When you get further down, you need a bigger pipe.
This guy, I told him I'm not gonna fix this 15. I said I'm not gonna do it. I said, if you want it fixed, we need to put a 24 in. You're too close to the other side. If you don't wanna pay for it, I'm not touching it, because I'm not gonna come back here every other week and fix it when we have a storm.
Yeah, like
So-
it's your fault.
Yeah, so he's gonna go ahead and foot the bill to get this bigger pipe in, but that's the kind of thing we just have to think about where it's at and what's going on. I mean, that was the biggest flooding issue, that one last storm was your ditch.
Right.
They had a 48-inch ditch going to a 15-inch pipe. Didn't work, flooded everybody.
Yep.
So, anyways.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I need a bigger pipe in there as well. Andy brought that up at the last meeting, I think, about the Josie property. We've got the dollars together to do that. We're waiting on Sean to write up an agreement with the town and Walter Josie so we can figure out, you know, we got that in a volunteer squad to help put the pipe down, but that's probably gonna happen sooner than later.
Call me, I got my machine out, I got a hydraulic compactor to pack it back in place.
Would you help us with it?
Of course I would.
Absolutely.
So I got
a shovel.
I got a little question about that.
Yeah.
I got to thinking, is it wise to put pipe all the way from the edge of your property? I'm guessing that's where you're going to.
No, just actually to the gate, right where that road turns, just to that gate. That's what we can afford right now.
So
But we're
is
trying
it
to-
wise to go even, I mean, if you go more than 30 foot with a 36-inch pipe, sooner or later it's gonna end up full of mud, and how are you gonna clean it without yanking it out of the ground?
Oh, we're not gonna, we'll have cleanouts in it. We'll have to every once in a while put a cleanout so you can take a fire hose to it or something. And but these basins, I haven't gone and shopped them yet, but I'm thinking it's gonna be a 4x4 by really tall, you know, 8-foot high catch basin, something you can put a guy in there with a fire hose. But at the gate where Josie's property is, at that curve, we wanna go beyond the gate, because that's where I think they're gonna collect that water that's in that ditch that comes along there, and that's gonna help catch the water so it's not going around across the road that flooded everybody around on Rome Way.
So I guess my question is, wouldn't it be cheaper to just make a ditch as big as yours versus, let me finish real quick, versus putting that pipe in the ground? Also because a lot of that water that came across the road was just past that ditch into his little orchard right there. A lot of that came from his property filling up with water. If we put a culvert in there, it's gonna flow over the top of that culvert and do the same thing again. If you put a ditch in there, it's gonna catch that water and send it to the wash. Just my
How
thought.
many feet of pipe are we talking?
500 feet.
Why are we putting that much in? We have,
Well, that's what it takes to get from the wash over to, I'm estimating, I haven't taken a laser measure or anything like that to
we
it,
have,
but
we have 2 problem spots on that ditch. The one is the 15-inch pipe by the gate,
Yeah, that's why we're not gonna be messing with that. We're going a 3-foot.
Right. So my point is, all we need is one stick of 36 inch right there. There's another one down right at the other end of his property that he's got to an 18. A little bit bigger, but not enough to handle that ditch. So, and then 50 feet from there is a 36. If we just replace those two little sections with 36, that should take care of that ditch. I don't think we need to spend money on 500 feet of pipe. I think if we did it with 2 pieces of pipe and left the rest in a ditch, I think that would be cost effective.
Still,
And it would fix the solution, or be a solution.
It'll be cheaper and it'll help eliminate that water from his field flooding over into his backyard and across.
If we're gonna do pipe all the way, you gotta do a 48-inch pipe, not a 36.
Yeah, the engineering, they've, in our last funding request, they put 24 in there, and I said, that's ridiculous. And
No.
it's gotta be at least 36. And so the bigger you go, it's exponentially bigger price.
Oh, yeah.
It's not, going from 24 to 36 is a lot of money. Going from 36 to 48 is a ton more money. It'll
Right.
be double the price. But let me answer a couple of your questions for you. He's not willing to have us put a bigger ditch in there. So there's a problem, because he doesn't like the ditch at all in his property. Second off, what we're trying to do is speed up the water. The faster the water will flow through there, it will keep the mud out of it, because it speeds up. And so we're talking about having it probably at least 5-6 feet deep to the top of the pipe at that gate. And at the wash, it'll be even deeper. And so we're trying to get a nice angle on there so that water rushes through there as opposed to just barely flows. And then that will help keep it from getting full of mud, because it's faster moving water. And the reason we want to go that deep is if we can get the FEMA grant that we so desperately are hoping, fingers crossed, that we can get. If we came in with, $3 or $3.5 million, we can take that pipeline clear up to John Pay's property where the flooding begins for David Naylor up at his property. We could bring a pipeline all the way from his property down there to help. And I agree with you. I wish we had a 48-inch pipe, but at 36 will be, I think, enough to at least conduct a hell of a lot of water.
36 will take a lot of water.
And then let's address the other issue that you guys are talking about, which is the sheeting off of the property. On the 3 acres next to me, on Walter Josie's property, if you've ever noticed, I have berms around the new house area, and that's because it was a river one rainy season. They came across his property, crossed over to mine, and was starting to wash out my fence. And that's when I started berming that to prevent that water from coming back onto my property right there. And so there's a lot of sheeting that can go on there. And there's a couple of ways that we can conduct that water. We can first off berm it to hold on to the water, like you'll see in areas like Arizona, where they'll have a sunken area that helps collect water. And then that water has given a pathway that's non-erosion kind of thing. You can put a 4 or 6 inch pipe that's in that collection basin that will conduct that water into the pipe. So the berm kind of holds that water back, but it gives it a way to exit. And that's what our plan on the sheeting was, is in his horse areas, we would build a berm that would help catch that sheeting. He would allow that to build up, but we would put a drain in there to help conduct that in a smaller volume into that 36-inch pipe. So that's kind of the game plan. I've run this by engineering, and he's like, that's a pretty good idea. So we're kind of heading that direction, but our main goal is long term, we want that pipe deep enough that we can actually conduct water as far as Mount Zion Drive into that and still have some downhill going. Right now, we have too many uphill areas. There's one between Walter Josie and my property. It goes uphill there and it stops. You can see it right now. My ditch is full of water, yet it won't go past the middle there. And then when you go down to Walter Josie's in the middle of his property, it does it again. There's a high spot in there. And that's because I went in there, I said, let me dig out this ditch. No, you can't do that. I don't want you to dig in deeper than what it is. And then he finally says, okay, 6 inches deeper, you can go a little deeper on it. Because he doesn't want a big ditch there.
Couple things. Retention ponds.
Yeah.
would be something that would help take some excess water. I mean, if we have this 4-foot ditch, if we're gonna get a storm and that ditch is clear full, at 3 foot, we can have a detour ditch that goes off into a pond, but it will take anything over that, you know, not anything, but it'll take a big portion of that.
Right.
So that's an option, but when you wanna be careful, you're talking about making it go fast. That's gonna cause, faster water is gonna cause a lot of erosion down by the wash.
Yeah, we've gotta put some riprap in there to help.
Big, well, yeah, a lot of riprap.
We've gotta have some, big rocks back there to help, that splash against it, and that's not done as well.
So also, what about this ditch with Josie? So there's ditches there, this should be considered a utility easement where that ditch is. He shouldn't have a choice what we do to that ditch.
Right.
If there's a utility easement there that's protecting all these neighbors,
There's a drainage easement there, it's 8 feet wide.
okay, so we should be able to do whatever we want in that ditch,
Well, that's it's 8 feet wide.
okay?
How are you gonna get a piece of equipment that's big enough that'll dig deep enough without his permission?
My
And-
machine's 7 feet wide and I can dig 12 feet deep.
Anyway, I agree with him, it becomes a hazard once you start getting 4 or 5 feet deep.
Oh, yeah.
And his ditch is surprisingly, not that bad. When I went over there, it had some weeds in it, we cleared the weeds. And he's finally said, okay, I'll let you go a little bit deeper, and we took about 6 more inches of dirt out of that. And made it
So we
flow
want
a
to pipe
little
the
bit.
whole thing behind his house as the game plan then?
The reason I wanna pipe it is to a permanent fix instead of a Band-Aid fix, because if we do the ditch again, it'll still fill up with weeds, and it doesn't drain fast enough. Because it's like in the front of my house, that ditch is full of, water.
Correct.
And so when it just sits there like that, any dirt that's in there now settles down to the bottom and it fills that ditch in. And so the slower the water is, the more that's likely to happen. And so trying to get the water to drain as far away as Nader's property or Jerry Darter's property, you know, that's my goal, is let's make it so that we're not hanging on to water, at least by Jerry Darter's.
That pipe that goes under
And
that
to do
road.
that, I've gotta pipe it, because the ground is too flat. If I pipe it, I can create more grade underground.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And that'll help it drain better, and we'll have to have clean outs and all that, but I'm trying to look in the future for a permanent fix instead of a Band-Aid.
So when we put these pipes in that are collecting these and go from point A to point B, we need to be putting in the catch basins and put them in correctly, not like the ones in front of our town hall here.
I agree.
So the catch basins typically on a 36-inch pipe be a 48 by 48,
That's what I was thinking.
and it'll be about 60 inches deep. So you have a 2-foot sediment box at the bottom of it, the pipe goes up here, and then the bottom catches all the mud, and you can get in there and clean that out with a shovel. Or, you know, the bigger cities use super vacs, but, so shovels, but anyways, like the one that goes from the neighbor property across to Jerry Darter's, that's another 15-inch pipe. That's why everybody's flooding right there. That pipe needs to be a 24, because it's going into your 3-foot ditch that's going into, you know what I mean?
Right.
So that one across that road needs to be changed. Probably put a catch basin on either side of it.
I'm also gonna try to, I don't know if it'll work, but I'm gonna try to approach John Pay about donating about 3 acres of his property right there for a catch basin / park.
Retention pond?
And do a trade with him on some stuff that he wants as well, and see if I can finagle a deal out of that. So, at that point, when we got some money, we could reconfigure that to catch that water that's coming across the property, catch it right there and slow it down before it delivers it further down, so.
Absolutely.
Anyway, I'm just thinking bigger than just clean out a ditch, because I think that it'd be more of a permanent solution in the long run if we can get the big dollars in here from FEMA. What's going on with FEMA? I don't know that our grants got in there in time, but some of the engineering I've talked to, they say that FEMA's got a bunch of money right now compared to what they've ever had. And next year, they're getting like 3 or 4 times more than they have this year. And so if we miss it this year, we're gonna have our ducks lined up next year to be in line for that money as a grant, as opposed to having to borrow money for it. And I'm telling you, I'm gonna have my hands in the cookie jar on that one, because, I mean, we're talking about, you know, going from 50 million to $400 million available with FEMA on some of these, to correct some of these issues that the towns are having. Trump's kind of opened the floodgates with trying to help people with infrastructure issues and problems. And so it's not an empty cookie jar. They got a lot of money, and we're gonna try to grab some of it. And that will help give us, I'm hoping, a permanent solution as opposed to the Band-Aid of cleaning out a ditch again, so. Because they just go back in.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, that's kind of what my game plan is. We're trying to fix the short term and the long term and think ahead on it, so. Anyway, so that was on roads and storm drainage. Anybody else? You got anything? You got a hand I saw raised up, or?
No, but I think we have to do that other thing out loud.
This out. This is what we just signed off on, isn't it?
We got this, because it's the resolution, so we have this.
Okay, so we have a resolution that is actually for Title 11 that we just passed. And I'll let you go. I'm going to talk about mine.
Okay. I move that we accept ordinance number 2018-14 to repeal and replace Title 11 subdivision ordinance.
I'll second that motion.
Vote.
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Public comments. We've been doing that all night, I think. Has everybody commented out?